So, ladies and gentlemen, that leads me to ask the question, what kind of government do we want for the future? And I'd say this to you. I've done some work with the replication of the Choir of Hard Knocks down here in Tasmania. It's called the Choir of High Hopes in Hobart. And the founder of that Melbourne choir is a very quietly spoken bloke called Peter Cullen. And he sat me down one day and he said, "You know what this is about, Jim?" And I said, "Tell me, Peter." He said, "Governments are full of agencies that stop people from drowning, but nobody teaches them how to swim." And in that moment I got the definition of the difference between my kind of liberal politics and what I now see of the Labor Party in Canberra. I frankly admired many of the years of achievement of the Keating and Hawke governments. It seemed to me they did a lot of things the country needed. But with Kevin Rudd in power, I don't have any difficulty describing the difference between the two persuasions now. And the Big Brother style of nanny state politics that Tasmania has also slipped quietly into over this long 11 years has just about quenched our can-do culture. And what about Tasmania, the legacy of 11 years of Labor? I don't think there are actually any easy answers to a lot of these questions. There's only intelligent choices, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to suggest to you that after we move on from this NIMBY era, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the term, not in my backyard, we need to get back to understanding that there has to be an industrial base to deliver the wealth creation which powers these communities along. It can't all come from the government. So I'd call the next era that comes along practical sustainability. This will be about the wiser use of our resources. We all understand what the message is about. We know how important that is. So now closer to home, Labor's Tasmania is characterised by country people waiting for someone in Hobart to tick a box, by an unaffordable public service, by a damning $22 billion in a federal infrastructure fund and the 11 years of the GST bonanza, and yet we have failing infrastructure and less than $50 million came our way out of that massive infrastructure spend. This era will be marked by the demeaning of respect for public figures, as Will has already commented on, and I hope that in our next Liberal government we'll have the opportunity to put that respect back on the public platform where it truly belongs. Remember the Scott Gadd affair, the renewal of his contract 3 weeks before the department he led was abolished. Do you remember the high-profile departures we've mentioned, of course, of Brian Greene, Steve Cons, Paul Lennon, Paula Reid and Alison Ritchie, all in controversial circumstances in less than 24 months. You're all very familiar with the rail debacle, the Sullivan's Cove waterfront disappointment, the Polytechnic fiasco, the Jack Johnson's charade, the Royal Hobart Hospital embarrassments, and indeed most recently the water and sewerage debacle. And now the tax flip, the land tax backflip. And last week, at a function at Port Arthur, I'm told the brand new contract renewals for all of the Port Arthur Authority just 3 weeks before a state election. Labor voters, ladies and gentlemen, are embarrassed. They just want this to be over. This is our time. Liberal is about small business and big hearts. A Liberal government under Will Hodgman will be a government which does know where the spin stops and where leadership begins. My mother told me that I had 2 ears and 1 mouth and I should use them in that ratio. And I think we've had a government that's been operating at the reverse of that. It's been more about ready, fire, aim, I think. Responsible use of resources I've mentioned, and I think that will be the hallmark of our future as we find ways to negotiate with people that do want to save the planet but also understand they need to eat and turn on the light. Basslink and natural gas developments were dreams that were dreamed back in the Rundle era in the late 80s and early 90s, and it took a succession of governments to deliver them. That's the nature of infrastructure works. That's why it's important to dream those big dreams, and if I had a name for this presentation I'd call it, "What will it look like when we get there?" Because if we can't explain what it will look like when we get there to our electors, how will they know who to follow? And what will the dream be that they're buying into when they place their votes? Back in Will's budget reply in June 2009, as long ago as 2009, we spoke then about the abolition of land tax, about the establishment of an Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, about a single statewide planning code. We spoke about beginning the Midlands Highway upgrade. It isn't going to happen in 2 or 3 years. But it is a fact that with the slow but steady decline of the southern port of Hobart, just about all the consumable freight comes in through the northern ports, and it is a fact that by 2025 the current busy Midlands Highway will be carrying double the amount of freight as the economy grows. To not deal with the current needs of that highway and upgrade it to cater for what we know will happen in the future would simply be irresponsible. The Royal Hobart Hospital development you know about. There were statements in that budget response including significant boosts for tourism promotion, the restoration of the pathway planners, which this government took away, the doubling of funding for equipment for people with disabilities for 1/4 of Tasmanians that have need of some kind of mechanical device, and indeed the creation of Infrastructure Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. I'm most grateful for all of you coming here today. I hope you're getting the message that the Liberal Party in which you believe is a resurgent group. We have youth, we have age and we have experience. We have character and we've got skills. We have the vision and determination to lead this state into the future.